North Reading so they can stay employed here. And the morale is high because they're participating in projects. They're not just doing mundane maintenance work. They're participating in projects. Very, very important for morale and skill development. Any questions on highway? No.
I have one question, and this, I guess, goes back to you, Greg. You're recommending less in the miscellaneous capital, and there's two items that Dave has, and your recommendation is just a dollar amount, or were you recommending not buying one of the two pieces of these?
No, it's a dollar dilemma that we had to make the budget balance. Our thought is that we have flexibility with capital to defer those items until either as we get closer to the April town meeting, or defer them till October. Okay. You'll see that consistently throughout in all the other budget presentations. Bob.
Oh,
Go ahead.
that account usually is not enough. That's a quick answer. They're in control. We're not in control of the details. We can be on a dead-end street, and if they come by and say that if we have the street barricaded and posted, and they come by and deem that a police officer was warranted, then they have a police officer. That's it. We don't have any say in it. Chief just walked in. So it doesn't matter whether it's 62 or Sandspur. Doesn't matter. And I don't contest their authority. That's their call.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
Sure. A couple of years ago, excuse me, pretty good, huh?
Scones are excellent.
Thank you.
Bribery's not gonna get you anywhere.
Sure it does, it gets them up first.
Gets me up first.
Oh, got you up first, yes,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's right.
That's about it.
Worked every year.
Every year.
We used to do our sweeping through the consortium bid. And there was a time when there was 3 or 4 sweeping companies that would bid. American Sweeping has bought up all these smaller companies. And so it's really them and nobody else. And 2 things have happened. The costs have gone out of sight, and they do lousy work. Our specs always called for machines that were 3 to 5 years old at the most. After 5 years, a sweeper is down more than it's up. It's a self-destructing machine, as you can imagine. So we went to the board and the FinCom members that remember, and we said, we got to get a sweeper, and here's what we'd like to do. Rather than put it through capital, where we need to ask for it every 5 years, what we want to do is put it in the operating budget as a lease. We'll lease it for 5 years, and then we'll dump it. We'll just trade it in. We'll get a good price for it, and then we get a new one. Just think about leasing a car. We're going to lease a sweeper. It's the best plan that we could think of in terms of making us get rid of that machine, because the tendency, if you got it through capital, it's 5 years old, we can make another year, and then you hit a couple of years where there's no money for capital. And now you're in the same boat as you had with American sweeping. And no lie, you go by a gutter and sweep it up, and you leave bolts and screws behind it. That's how bad it can be. Plus, all of a sudden, it just doesn't start, it stops sweeping, it just doesn't do the job, just kind of pushes stuff around. The other piece is that if we have a hard, heavy winter and we have a lot of material out, we may need some help in the spring from, there's some contractors that own sweepers. They're not sweeping companies, but there are contractors that own sweepers. And we can bring them in for a week or two to help us out. So that's part of the mix as well. So that's the plan for street sweeping. Last year, we did it all by ourselves. We like to have it all, the town all done by 4th of July. That's our goal. Have everything done by the. Oh, boy. Good question. I mean, off the top of my head, if you did the math, but I think we're looking at 120, 130. Yes. Oh, yeah. The first 5-year lease will be high because we had nothing to trade in for. So the second machine that we get, actually, the lease will be less because we'll have something to trade into and obviously we'll get something off the top of that amount.
So this is a lease that basically, at the end of term,
It's
you own.
right, yeah, and we'll just flip it.
I think when you discussed this back a couple of years ago, there was some talk about community sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Has that taken place at all?
Linfield and Middleton are still using American sweeping.
Okay. They didn't
So-
follow through.
They're still putting up with, I expected Linfield to follow suit, I really did, but they haven't. When they do, we can make some different arrangements.
Any other questions on the road and street budget?
Snow and ice is your first handout. It's always fun. This year it's not fun. Snow and ice always used to be expensive if you had a heavy winter. Now snow and ice is expensive, period, whether you have a heavy winter or you don't. What you have is your 10-year average, your last 10 years, and you can see how erratic it is. When you look at a historical average of 48 inches, first 5 years, first 4 years, but then after that, it's really wacky. It's just hard to guess. El Ninos, global warming, take your pick, but we have more snow now, or as much than we did all of last year. The two tables that are behind it, the one to date, and the asterisks, the asterisks and the spaces are, it means that the labor costs hadn't been calculated as of yesterday. We didn't get all the time cards in yet. But you can get a look at the cost drivers. Of course, if it's on weekends, people are making time and a half. If it's after hours, it's time and a half. But the materials are out of sight. I mean, 15 years ago, salt was maybe $15 a ton. Now it's $55 a ton. And what it is, it just seems as though those kinds of commodities that are sole source, for the most part, they own you. And the costs just keep coming up. Most of the salt comes out of Peru, and it's shipped to Portsmouth and Chelsea. And what we normally do is take the two low bidders who have salt in Portsmouth and salt in Chelsea. Sometimes we'll go with two that are in Chelsea, but our preference is two different ports, so we never run out of salt. And never go to bed with one vendor, because, believe it or not, Essex County, 2 years ago, they were getting their salt from Granite State. I think it was Granite State. I don't want to be wrong on them, but they're out of Portsmouth, as you would imagine. And halfway through the winter, they defaulted on the contract. And those towns had no material for the rest of the winter. They were in trouble. So we don't ever want to put ourselves in that predicament. So that's where we are with snow and ice. The weather's going to moderate. We're going to have a January thaw. The original forecast was dry and cold, because the southeast was in drought, and the northeast is supposed to be dry and cold through the heart of the winter. Hopefully that's the change after we get our warming. We could use a break.
I wanted to remind you about that. I don't know if the board members realize it, but I went to one of your public works meetings, and Dave was doing weather forecasting.
Well, I volunteered.
Thus far, you haven't been on track.
No,
I don't want to embarrass you, but...
It's quite all right. The bulk of it came, though, before winter actually even started.
Oh,
Remember?
I see.
When it just started.
The crew always asked me what the forecast was going to be, just to have some fun. So, Bob came to the last meeting, experienced that. Thanks for coming.
Dave, the budget here, just so that people understand, the $109,000 for snow and ice, right, is well below what we typically spend on snow and ice.
Yeah, snow and ice is coming in at about $375, $400 on an average. And the town purposely underfunds it because of two things. The snow and ice is subject to the emergencies that allow it to be overexpended and taken off the top of available monies next year. Also, once you raise it, you have to live with that number. You can't go back. Department of Revenue will not let you go back. So if you do raise it to 400,000, which is more the realistic number, and then you're in a kind of a tight year and say, you know what, why don't we just do snow and ice for 250? If we need more, we'll adjust it in the fall. Can't do it. It'll live with the number. That's the reluctance of raising it.
So basically, $125,000 of revenue estimate is left unspent to cover an overrun in snow and ice. And then if we go above that number, then we are making it up the following year, or we're making an adjustment, as we did, I think, in FY 2006, we made the adjustment, capital.
We have an opportunity to true up the snow and ice budget either at the April or October town meeting. If this budget conceivably goes way over,
We're gonna have to...
we'll have to deal with it in October before we set the tax rate. So conceivably, that's worst case scenario, but it's not unrealistic given how we've started.
So very hopefully, your forecast for the winter...
Be nice. Be nice.
are gonna be dry.
Be nice. Yeah. But the crew does a good job. I'm very, very happy with the program that we have. It's an excellent, it's the program for me, I did winter in New Hampshire as well. And once the storm starts, if you know that plow is gonna be there in 4 hours, and that's the system, that's a good system. In North Reading, if you know the plow is gonna be no later than an hour and a half, and it's there an hour and a half every time, then that's a good system.
Well, it's clear that the roads in North Reading are
Crew
better
does.
maintained in the wintertime.
It's a very good,
Surrounding communities.
yeah, thank you. It's a very good system and an excellent crew behind it.
Any other questions regarding snow and ice? Okay, let's move on. How are we doing for time, Greg?
Tree care is, it's not laughable, it's ridiculous. I don't don't really know why we wanna spend any time